80 Days, adventurer and award-winning filmmaker Paul G. Roberts retraces the global footsteps of Phileas Fogg, hero of Jules Verne's most famous work.
This is the story of railways in India. 150,000 kilometres of track laid, 1 billion people, and an infinite source of memories. That's a famous quote about the railway system in India. Now, railways have played a significant role in the development of India since the very first railway line was laid and opened in 1853. So it's, I think, important to look at the history of rail in India as a means of understanding how this massive country has progressed and developed over time, and the way that people connect and move around. As I said, the first railway line in India was opened in 1853 between Mumbai and Than, a distance of just 34 kilometres. And this was followed by the opening of the line between Howrah and the Hooghly in 1854. During the colonial era, railways were primarily built to serve the British interests in India, such as transporting their loot around, raw materials from the hinterland to the ports for export. However, the railways also played a key role in unifying the country and facilitating the vital aspects of trade and travel. After India kicked the British out and gained their independence in 1947, the railways were nationalised and became the responsibility of the Indian government. And since then, the Indian government has taken the railways and undergone massive expansion and modernisation, with new lines being added and existing ones being upgraded. Today, the Indian railway system is the fourth largest railway system in the world, with, as I said, over 120,000 miles or kilometres of track and more than 7,000 stations. It's also one of the largest employers in the country, with 1.3 million people involved.
नाता है ही मेरा, इसमें बचपन से ही है मेरा नाता, मेरा खानदानी नाता है इसके साथ। मेरा डैडी है यहाँ, उसका नाता है, मैं हो गया, मेरा नाता है। अब मेरा बच्चा है, उसका नाता हो गया, तो मेरा जोड़ी नाता ही है इसके साथ, मेरा रिश्ता है इसके साथ। रेलवे से हमको सब कुछ मिला, सब कुछ नहीं किया, सब कुछ मिला रेलवे से।
Railway continues to be an important mode of transportation for both passengers and cargo in India. So let's look back to the beginning of the railways. It was 1832. The idea of setting up a railway system in British India was first proposed. And at that time, rail travel was still in its infancy in Britain. But the East India Company knew the benefits of developing an extensive rail network. And after a long decade of inaction, private entrepreneurs were allowed to establish a rail system by Lord Hardinge, the Governor-General of India, in 1844. Two companies were formed by the year 1845, namely the East Indian Railway Company and the Great Indian Pacific Railway Company. India's love affair with the railways began that very summer in 1853. Now, the history of Indian railways dates back to over 160 years ago. On the 16th of April 1853, the first passenger train ran between Boribanda, which is Bombay, and Than, a distance of 34 kilometres. And it was operated by three locomotives named Sahib, Sultan and Sindh, and had 13 carriages. The British had brought the railways into India for their own benefit, and no one could have imagined that a transportation system would unite the states and bring them together to form a nation. They made railways an integral ingredient of the country's social fabric. Mark Tully once said, inevitably, the railways had social consequences. Without them, the three great cities of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras would remain small colonial trading ports. So, railway technology. The railways became popular at an unprecedented speed. The frequency and the quantity of trains was increasing as more and more people became dependent on their services. And at the same time, there was a need to enhance the safety of the passengers, and the number of trains on the tracks increased. Many instruments were thus developed for better management of railway sections. The social impact of the railways emerged from the very beginning. The railways made India mobile and opened up new vistas and opportunities for its people. It brought in new expertise and trades, new technology, but above all, it gave the people a sense of freedom. Now, as the railways grew, their role transformed from a mere provider of transport to something much larger. It influenced trade and business in a remarkable way. And in the larger cities, the major markets grew in and around the major rail cities. New settlements developed along the railway routes, since rail symbolised progress and people wanted to be a part of it. This deep link between Indian society and its railways is nowhere more visible than in Mumbai. The thriving suburban city that emanates out of the two great termini, Churchgate and Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus, CST, constitutes the most fascinating and complex city rail network in the world. Mumbai suburban system, unlike other suburban systems, cuts through the heart of the city above ground and not underneath, as with most metropolitan metro systems. The Heritage Gallery at Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus is a major separate section inside where one can find information about the history of railways, especially the Great India Peninsula Railway. It houses miniatures of the station, trains and engines as they evolve from steam, diesel and electric. And the gallery tells the story of the development of railways and the city of Mumbai, its very self. The first railway workshop was established at Jamalpur near Munga, Bihar in 1862. It gradually became one of the major industrial units of India, with iron and steel foundries, rolling mills and more. An important train that had a huge effect on the society of Mumbai and its neighbouring city was the Deccan Queen. Way back in 1928, the Great Indian Peninsula Railway started the Deccan Queen as an intercity train between Bombay, now Mumbai, and Pune, now Pune. And this is perhaps the most iconic train to be run by the Indian Railways. And it continues to this very day, some 87 years later. The Deccan Queen can be said is not just a train, but it's actually an institution. And generations of people from Pune have used it to travel to Mumbai to work and return each evening. So owing to the amount of time people spend in the train, friendships are formed, marriages are arranged and business deals sealed during the journey. In fact, such trains are more like social networks.
If anyone wants to know what India is all about, you could just travel in one of these trains and you could talk to people, you see. You'll actually meet people from different parts of the country and you can actually have a look into the various cultures, you see. Now there's a cultural diversity in India. You can actually enjoy this cultural diversity traveling in such long trains, say, which goes from one end of the nation to another end. So such long trains you can enjoy. If you're really interested, definitely you will experience it.
We are going to Betul because I'm getting married there, and all my relatives and friends and parents, everybody are coming there just because of my marriage.
Train journey, I am in a business trip. This is my business trip. So I am moving always in the trains from different part of the country.
Another significant and vital social impact of the Indian Railways is witnessed in the hill railways, the most famous of which is the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, which winds up from Siliguri at the foot of the Himalayas to Darjeeling. Even 30 years ago, the Darjeeling Himalayan Railways was the predominant form of transport in the Darjeeling Hills. More than 3 trains used to operate at the new Jalpaiguri to the Darjeeling, and the same number back, and at least 2 trains operated at Kurseong towards Darjeeling. The Kurseong station of the Darjeeling Himalayan Railways is the headquarters of the DHR. The station also houses a museum with original artefacts and exhibits of the DHR. For the school children around Kurseong, this small train was a trusted friend that took them to the doorsteps of their schools. The amazing steam locomotive made its way through the market of Kurseong, through the first hill railway in India to be declared a UNESCO National World Heritage Site. It now runs only as a tourist attraction with scaled down operations. So take a walk around the Darjeeling railway station, zoom in on the different locomotives and hilltop view from the station. Apart from influencing society in general, the Indian Railways brought in another social stratum into the country, the railway society. In general, society is divided into 2 parts, namely civil and defence. In India, there's a 3rd strata. Railways have their own housing, clubs, institutes, city halls, cinemas, even their own hospitals. And many of these railway towns were based on railway towns in England. And many of these railway towns exist and thrive to this very day.
रेलवे मेरे लिए भगवान है। जैसा जो रेल चलता है, ये मेरा माँ है, ये मेरा बाप है। ये मेरे को रोटी दे रहा है, ये मेरे बच्चों को पाल रहा है। अपने जैसा अपने माँ को देखना पड़ता है, सवेरे झुकना पड़ता है, उसको हम सलाम करता है सवेरे, क्योंकि हमारा रोज।
The introduction of railways have changed India in unprecedented ways. Way back on the 16th of April 1853, when the 3 steam locomotives, Sahib, Sultan and Sindh, hauled a 14-coach train from Boribanda station, Bombay to Tain, they ushered in the new rail era in India, changing the country and its people forever. And even a century and a half later, the railways continue to be a strong unifying force in India.